This episode of the RMR Training Podcast is brought to you by HYROX. HYROX is the #1 analytics tool for your HYROX racing and training. I've used it the past year, and it has, without a doubt, made me a better, smarter athlete. Getting to see everything in one spot and not having to make guesses about where you are strong and where you are weak, what you need to work on, it makes a world of difference. It's helped me understand what I need to do in training and how to approach race day. You can get your free custom report with the link down in the show notes. Thank you to HYROX. Hey squad, before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to the RMR Training app. Yes. So the RMR Training app has our brand new 12-week training program. This is our flagship program that we point a lot of our athletes who come into the RMR Training app toward. It's going to be progressive. It's one of our peak and perform plans that will have a progression and will lead you in to your next HYROX event. Each year, we take what we've learned in the past, we keep what did work, and we get rid of the things that we think didn't work, or we iterate on it so that it works better. And this year, we're really excited because it's in our brand new platform for the app that also includes the RMR community. The community has a robust number of athletes already in there who are training specifically for HYROX. So there's a ton of support. All the coaches here at RMR Training are in there answering questions, making sure that people know exactly what they need to do to improve their HYROX. You can get all of this, the brand new program, for 12 weeks, and we have nearly a dozen other programs, all for one price. It's just $39.95 a month. We're real excited about this new 12-week program, as now we have things like it's a better user experience being in on the community. We have long-form video guidance within the actual app itself. We have native HYROX leaderboards that we've built from scratch. Most of the leaderboards now don't really cross over very well for HYROX. This one we built so it makes perfect sense for HYROX, and a lot more cool features in the 12-week program and the app. You can check that out with the link down in the show notes. Let's get to the episode.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the RMR Training Podcast. It's your boy, Ryan Kent, joined today by Meg Jacoby. And in this episode, we're digging into one of the most common questions. Is it though? One of the most common questions in hybrid fitness. What's the difference between HYROX and DEKA Fit? And how should you train for each one? On paper, they look similar: machines, running, functional fitness. But once you get inside the race, they feel completely different. So in this episode, we'll break down the key differences in event structure, time domain, pacing, strength demands, and mental approach, and give you some real strategies for how to prep for each one. But first, we got to catch up a little bit.
That was such a professional intro. Did you write that down?
Your boy's prepping.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Look at you go. We usually just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
That was
I'm trying to be a little more professional.
Good job.
Thank you. I didn't realize you were back in the States. So when Rich was like, when Rich was like, I can't, do the pod today, I was thinking I had limited hours, thinking you were going to be in Cyprus.
Yeah.
So I didn't know we would be able to put something together, but you're back. You're back in the States?
Back. I leave Sunday to go to Austria to meet Benny for a wedding. We're there for a week. Friends of his. Then I'm back here and I'm getting my house ready to sell.
You're going to sell it?
I'm moving, baby. Yeah, I'm selling. I'm selling because the market's really good right now around where I live. There's not a lot of inventory. Some houses have been going for way more over ask. So rather than trying to rent it out and make less, I'm going to sell it. And then I'm actually investing that money into real estate in Cyprus. I'm getting just
making moves.
We're just being business peeps over here. Clearly I am well guided by my boyfriend. So I don't know what I'm doing. He's just like, hey, here's what we're going to do. And I'm like,
Are
cool.
you going to buy another home up there in New York or
no? Not right now. Not right now. We will kind of decide like how things go with coming back and forth and such, what we want to do. But the real estate market in Cyprus is crazy, so you can get a lot of return on invest there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
crazy
destination.
as in good.
Crazy isn't
Right.
good. It's a vacation destination, so you can always earn income from rental properties, and then it sets me up with like and Mila well for some time. She can inherit stuff later on in
Yeah.
life, if all goes well. But that's my plan for now. And then it's also like my parents will have a place to come stay when they come out, or depending on like if it's more of an Airbnb or if we have like a long-term rental agreement situation out there. So, just
Damn.
trying to, do
Just living.
stuff,
Just living
just
life.
living, just living. But then we will decide like kind of Benny's thinking about investing in US real estate too. So we're gonna kind of that's on him. That's his thing. I don't have that kind of stuff in my
Coin.
life. I don't got that coin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll kind of go from there. But yeah,
That's exciting.
it is.
Wow.
But anyway, more about you had a nice camp with
Oh,
your
yes.
small group.
Yeah, I did.
That looked
That was,
really
yeah.
cool. I had a little FOMO.
It
Tell us
turned
about
out,
that.
it turned out amazing. So, I mean, for those that don't know, each one of us, myself, Meg, Rich, we all have our own individual small group coaching that we do.
Yeah.
And I would say when did it started a little over a year ago,
We're almost
maybe.
a full year. We
Yeah.
started like gearing this up last summer.
Yeah. And I think it's just evolved into um at least from like my group as evolved into a bigger
Yeah.
just better product overall. I think in the beginning I was a little unsure of how it was all going to work and flow and everything. And now I feel like we're pretty dialed in on it. And the people that are within the group are super tight. They've all met at races at some point or another. At least most of them have. And I thought it would be a cool opportunity to try to get everyone into one place, and including myself, because a few of them I'd never met before.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be cool to get as many people as possible into one place and just kind of spend a couple days together. Like, sure, we're gonna train and do some fitness stuff, but the main thing was just continue to build the relationships within the group, because I think that's kind of what keeps it going and keeps it strong. And
Definitely.
I I left this camp just super proud of the group that I've like put together, because you
Mm-hmm.
never know when you're getting people from all across the world into one big online training group, if personalities are going to vibe, if there's going to be some clash, like that kind of thing. But everyone just gets along, and
Yeah.
we just had a great time. And it was actually pretty cool to kind of be a coach for them. Obviously I did training with them too, but there were a few things where I was able to actually be a coach for them in person,
Yep.
which I think was, pretty cool and unique. And um yeah, we did so much fun stuff. They all came here to Greenville, South Carolina, by the way. So
Yeah.
we made it. We initially were flirting with the idea of going to the mountain, like like out west, or going to the beach. And then I said, I think it would be better if you guys come here. I can show you kind of my training grounds and where I like to do a lot of the training for races. And we'll have access to a gym if you want to come to my
Yeah.
garage, that kind of thing. So logistically, it made sense to do things here, and it worked out, and it was a blast. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yep.
Nice.
I'm sad it's over. Sad
Yeah.
it's over, but
It's like
you,
isn't it funny when you think like I just dropped my daughter off to like summer dance camp, and then I was thinking about your group and like how we've done the camps, and it's literally just like summer camp but for adult fitness people.
for sure.
It's like, let's make new friends and go to this camp and all just train together. It was very like, I'm walking in and I'm like, this is literally what we do, but just grown-ups.
Totally.
So
100%.
nice. I'm actually coaching a full women's week camp in Cyprus with athletic camps in November. And I think it's going to be open to like 80 to 100 ladies. So that's wild,
That's
and will be the by far the biggest group
that's your jam.
coaching. It is. It's not only me, there will be other coaches as well, but I'm going to be kind of taken the lead role on that, and so that'll be interesting to
All women.
all women. So it's kind of a collaboration with the Rocks Queens, which I did an event with in London at the beginning of July. They hired me on to kind of lead like a big talk. It went really well. They did like a sim. We did a sim, HYROX sim in the morning. Then I did a talk in like I don't know, like a hangout in the afternoon.
Mm.
And I was like on a stage with a microphone. I was like, this is
Damn.
like really formal. I got kind of nervous. I mean, I'm really good at like in front of people, right? But we usually do these things in a gym. So you're in like your setting and your environment where you feel comfortable. And like I'm literally up on like a stage and I'm just like sitting in the lights. I was like, this is a little it's a little aggressive. Um, so it'll be kind of that went really well. I had connected them with Luke because they wanted to do some type of like fitness retreat with their community. So it all worked out really well. So yeah, I'll be doing that. But the the small group stuff we've done with the camps and like what you did, and then what Rich kind of did with Hinman out in Denver, it's so nice because it is a small group, so you really get to know everybody. And I think there are advantages to both, of course, scenarios, but I think the small setting is nice in that way because you really you connect with people more, you kind of hear everybody's story more, whereas like this will be 80 people. Like it'll be hard for me to even remember
Right.
everyone's names. Um, but that's nice because then it's like then also the people in the group get close and become friends, and that's what we've experienced with our camps the last couple summers. Like we're in those group chats still and people are updating, texting, congratulating, like they still communicate in those. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a really cool thing that we've done that I'm really like proud of. And I love that we're all kind of course it's very hard to get three of us with our lives and family lives together to do one, so it has become harder. You
Yeah.
have two kids now. I'm all over. I'm
Yeah.
living in two
I
places, so like it's not as simple, but it's nice you guys were able to figure out a situation to keep that kind of going, and I
For
love
sure.
it.
I had some people reach out to me about, a potential camp like we've been doing. And I was like, guys, I want to, but I think we're all just we got our own things going on, and it's hard to find a weekend where we're
Yep.
all free and able
Yep.
to pull something like this off. And it just didn't work out this summer. Maybe
Yeah.
next summer, maybe.
Maybe next summer.
We'll
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah, it's crazy for me because besides the back and forth, like Mila has gotten way more in her own activities because she's 10 now. So even 2, 3 years ago, like 7, 8, she wasn't like so in. She was still figuring out like what she liked, and we weren't doing as much. And now she's kind of like going down her own path, which is great, but it has definitely come with a lot more commitment for her and then also from me. So it's like, yeah, it's harder and harder, but
yep.
not saying we won't be able to bring it back someday. Maybe we will.
Before we get into this, by the way, when's your first race? You want
Oh,
to?
yeah. I'm officially in for Stuttgart.
When is that?
Stuttgart. November. It's the weekend of Halloween. So like
Okay.
the 31st through
Okay.
like the 2nd of November.
Gotcha.
I'm racing a half in Cyprus in November, a week and a half later. And then I'm gonna race in Frankfurt in December. Unless I have
Okay.
Stuttgart and Frankfurt flopped, which I'm in Germany for my first two races. I will be in Hamburg, but I'm just moral support, backpack, the backpack holder. Benny's racing, so I'm just there. So I'll be around for the peeps. So if you see me there, say hey. And we're gonna try to get there to watch the elite races and support the crew. But I gotta get 2 times, so that's
I
why
was gonna
I'm
say
not
right now we've got your boy, the 2022 HYROX runner up and the 2024 women's HYROX world champion, both sitting
not in.
outside of the Elite 15 right now.
Technically,
we're
I'm
coming.
NA. I'm not even on the list. So I'm
Oh,
not even a number.
because you
Um,
don't have, you
because I
haven't
didn't have
raced.
two. Yeah, so
Okay.
my Amsterdam race will expire because that was in early October of last year. Then I threw my back out right after that. So my thing was with having the setback before Worlds this year, where I really regressed. Like I was taking a lot of steps forward and finally it was one of those moments where I was kind of like, this is going really well. And I'm like, like wondering when it's going to happen. Like this was a major surgery. So I was
Yeah.
kind of like, this is going a little too good. Took a few steps backwards. I was telling Rich in the last pod, finally, I did a post yesterday, finally feeling 100%. I'm over the hump. I have no pain, no discomfort, no tightness. I was dealing with a lot of residual tightness, weird nerve issues going on. And I have completely overcome that. So that's awesome. But I am not interested in pushing it too hard again too early to try to get a race in before the
For
first
sure.
major. It was just not even in the realm for my brain. Like going through what I've gone through in the last year, it's like, okay, I'm finally healthy and I'm so happy. Like just to be able to train exactly how I want to without any issues, without being like, oh no, like I'm a little tight today. Maybe I shouldn't do this, like that, just having that removed and being confident every day in what I'm doing is such a good feeling. Like I just want to keep that going. So playing it safe, giving myself a few more months to really get back before I have to really like I'm doing a lot of volume, but I'm doing a lot of low intensity. So before I really have to kind of push it in the next gear, I want to really build that base up. And I'm feeling really, really good. I'm getting really fit. So I'm very excited. But if November feels right. So I'll have those two. And then hopefully, I'm assuming the time is 62 mid for the women. And it's a little bit funny because I saw some posts where I was like, Meg Jacoby not on the list, and like these women have to run faster if they want to get in and stuff. And the time average is still slower than my second race ever time my, in 2022. So like I feel pretty confident
We
that
gonna be all right.
I'm
We
gonna
gonna
get
be all
two
right.
times under the average and be okay in the majors in
Yeah.
2026. So that's my plan. I'll race hopefully Phoenix, Warsaw, and then I want to come over and race the North American Championships in DC since that's now open to anybody
Yeah.
and a pro in the pro.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be in that as well. And I think that's really cool actually, because it opens some spots up for some other names, like potentially other people, Americans in our case, or North Americans in our case, that could be kind of on the outside of the elite or maybe sub elite and don't get the opportunity to race in bigger races with bigger names. So I think that'll
Hmm.
be I think that was a very cool decision by HYROX for this year, is splitting
Yeah.
that up into
For sure.
three. There's
We've
one
always,
slot.
yeah, we've always said though, like, why
Yeah,
would, how could Hunter be the European champion? Or,
right.
how could
That never
Alex
made
be
sense.
the North American champion?
And
Like,
then when they removed the Elite 15 race from those and had these be open championships, like that also didn't make sense to me ever either. I was like, how do we not have the highest category
mhm.
at a championship? That to me made no sense. So I think they've figured it out.
Yeah.
They course
Yeah.
corrected a couple times
Yeah.
and they got it right now. So,
Well, I'm happy it sounds like you found like peace through
oh
this
yeah.
injury. What's
Yeah.
to quote one of my favorite artists, J. Cole, there's beauty in the struggle, baby. There's
Yep.
beauty in the struggle. And I think,
Yeah.
somebody like yourself, I know for me, we put a lot of we try not to, but we still put a lot of our identity and self-worth into competing. And when you're forced to take a break from it, or in my case, just go through a ton of mental struggles. You sort of have no choice but to like find love in the day to day. That's it, because
Definitely.
you're not getting it on race day. So I know
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I'm in a much better place than I've been in quite some time. It's taken a while to get to this point, but you know what they say, time heals all wounds,
Yes, it
both
does.
mentally and
Amen.
physically. And
Preach.
we'll
This
be
is like a
back.
sermon right
We'll
now,
be
and I'm
back.
with it.
But your boy has a race this weekend. We're doing
Yes. And you're coming up to like not that far from me.
how far is it?
It's
Where I
like
don't
two
even
hours
honestly
from
know
me.
where I'm
You're
going to
going
like
to like the middle of PA.
okay.
It's like 2-3 hours from me.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
coming
we're
up in the
going up.
Northeast here.
We're going up to Pennsylvania. We're going to be doing a DEKA fit, uh, mainly just to check in and see kind of where my fitness is right now. I did a DEKA fit in North Carolina, maybe like 2 months ago now, and just kind of want to see the progress and continue to kind of build some momentum and confidence in my racing. And so yeah, we're heading up to do DEKA. And for those that don't know DEKA Fit is, what would you call it? Like the cousin or
You don't want to ask me this.
the baby brother of
I won't
HYROX.
say something nice. Uh,
DEKA Fit is, I will say, it is a great race. It's a very difficult challenge. I've hurt just as much in a DEKA Fit as I have in a HYROX, you know, in a different way.
yep.
They've sort of, I don't mean to the business out there in the space, but I'm going to do it. They've, you know, they haven't been paying the athletes, so I think
Why Meg's out. That was why Meg was
that's one of
out.
the reason they've lost some of the top end athletes showing up to their events. Um, you know, obviously I'm still supporting them, you know, and it's not just the athletes. They haven't paid some of their affiliates as well. So
Yeah.
there's just been some kind of unacceptable things go down on like the financial side where people are just like, I'm out. But it's still a great event. The community's awesome. So we're going to go up there this weekend. And I thought it would be a good time to kind of talk out the differences between HYROX and DEKA Fit, because they are both, I would say they're the two dominant, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the two dominant brands in hybrid sports right now, unless there's like one in Europe that I'm not familiar with.
There's
But
definitely new things popping up, but I don't know that they've gained the like Spartan is a well-known company at this point,
right.
right? Like they've been just doing stuff for years. So I think there are other events that are popping up, and especially in Europe, like there's a couple different new ones. But I don't think that they've gotten you know, they're not at that
The
point yet.
notoriety.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're new. They're brand
Right.
new.
Right.
So it's a different situation. But most of those are going more in the, I would say, high direction. Then we have like the Deadly Dozen that seems to be growing some traction. And they're doing events all over. Which is that looks kind of cool. I think there's a little more, they're still running, it's a little less, but there's like devil's presses and overhead carries, and there's some different things in that I think looks cool. But it's still in this hybridy kind
Yeah.
of space, and
Yeah.
and is still a race format. Um, instead of like a WOD, right? So I think that's kind of cool.
And we've all, myself, Rich, and Meg, we've done many races in DEKA. Do you still have the women's DEKA mile world
No,
record? Or is that
I think Vivian has that.
Vivian? Okay.
And then Lauren has the DEKA Fit, but I had both before them, and then I think Rich and I still have the mixed doubles DEKA Fit record, I think. Which is that's actually a very cool style in comparison to like the HYROX mixed doubles. Totally a different setup.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
one person going at a time. So it's not both partners run together. Like I could run, he could do the whole assault bike, then I could run. And so that's like that
You can even break up the runs.
Or you could break up
Like,
the runs because they're 2 laps. So like I
yeah.
could do a lap, he could do a lap. So I think that alone has a lot of strategy opportunity because like you can really play
It's,
with who should do
I
what
feel like it's
way
almost
more.
too much thinking.
It can be, I
I'm like,
think.
this is getting, I've done forgot. We're on station 3 and I've done forgot who's supposed to do what.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
exactly. But then it can get really spicy because the stations in DEKA are short and they're light, right? So there's box step overs, right? It's like 20, how many is it? 20,
right.
25? I
Yeah,
forget.
we'll get into it. We'll get
Okay.
into it.
I'm getting ahead.
So
I'm getting
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I guess, yeah, first let's just talk about the time domain
Yeah.
difference between the two events. HYROX, what would you say? For most people, 60 to 90.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people, there's going to be people, obviously, 2 hours, probably 2 hours plus, but I think the majority of the people are within like that 60 to 90-minute time frame, which makes the race much more of a grind, I
Yeah.
think. More, I would say, strength and endurance balance.
Definitely.
And then DEKA is 30 to 45 minutes. So really
Yeah.
cut in half,
Yeah.
half the duration of a HYROX, but much quicker, like higher paces, probably more cardio driven than HYROX, or at least in a different way.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
got one that's upwards of an hour and a half, and then the other one is about 45 minutes for most people. So one's much longer. One's much
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
And then as far as like the station demands, obviously in HYROX you've got the heavy sleds,
Mm-hmm.
the wall balls, the lunges, things that are taking several minutes to
Yes.
complete
Yes.
versus DEKA Fit. It's more like, it's just like you cycle through the stations much faster.
Much faster.
Like, I think the longest station for most people, for the women, would probably be the assault bike or the
Or the
rower
tank.
or the tank. But you're looking at 2 minutes ish.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas HYROX has several stations that are
Like over 4 minutes,
right.
5 minutes, even 4 minutes at the absolute highest level, right? So,
And
yeah,
some of these
it's,
DEKA stations, you're in and out within 30 seconds,
yeah,
like the box jump step overs, for
yeah,
example.
it's like, yeah, like a minute, you
Yeah,
know? So it's definitely a totally different output, does not require near as much strength. But I would say that there are technique things that you have to kind of have down in DEKA versus HYROX might be, besides like wall balls and the sled pull, a little bit less technical on. Like there are tricks to doing the ball over the shoulder really fast. There are
for
tricks
sure.
to doing the box step up overs really fast. Like you're not jumping up and stepping off, right? Like a box jump over. So there are ways and little technique moves that make DEKA fit and that can make your time on those stations drastically quicker. And you do have to practice a bit. Versus where I think HYROX is a little bit less technical on some of those movements. Obviously, there's technique
You're
that's going
like,
to be way more efficient, but
right.
pushing a sled is pushing a sled. So it's a little bit different in that way, I think.
Yeah, like wall balls would probably be the only skill-based station, I guess, in HYROX. Maybe. I mean, there's
Yeah,
skill to every one of them, but
right.
DEKA, it seems like not every single, but most of the stations have like a little trick that you can do to kind of
Exactly.
do it a little bit faster.
Exactly. And maybe it's like, maybe technical isn't the correct word, but there are definitely tricks. And you got to know the tricks if you
For
want to,
sure. Or
because you'll lose so much
You'll
time.
lose like 3 seconds here, 4 seconds there, and that kind of time in a DEKA
Yeah,
adds up.
it definitely
Like,
adds up.
yeah.
Even like the ram burpees, like understanding how to do those fast,
Ram
how
burpees
far you
are
want to clear
basically
your
devil's
head.
press for those that don't know.
Yeah. That can just, you can bleed a lot of time if you don't have the little tips and tricks on kind of how to do everything. And I think pacing overall in HYROX is arguably more important in some ways because it is a long grind. So if you blow it out too early, it is going to be a sufferfest because it is a long race. But there are definitely pacing strategies in DEKA Fit as well because it is lighter seeming and shorter. I think you can also blow it out because you think, like on the rower, I've made this mistake many times. The row is third in DEKA
Mhm.
Fit. You're feeling good here. I'm rowing a 148. Probably a bad plan. You know what I mean? Should
A
probably
little
slow
bit
this
of a
down a little
trap.
bit. Definitely a trap. So there's like little aspects to DEKA Fit that I think are slightly different because it is a little bit of a higher intensity where you have to be careful in how to pace certain things. But the same goes for HYROX, but it's like the opposite reasoning. It's like we have to pace better for this because it's longer, whereas it's like we need to pace correctly here because it's shorter and spicier, and I have to pick my spots, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
I should have led with this, but one is 8 by 1K
Yeah.
and 8 stations, and then the other one is 10 by 500 with 10
So we have
stations.
8.7 kilometers in HYROX, and we have 5K in DEKA.
Mhm.
So we're talking a pretty big difference, over 2 miles difference in total running duration.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in DEKA, the aggression early is a little less risky,
Yes.
but you'd still have that assault bike
Yeah,
waiting for
I was
you,
just gonna say,
which
but you
is
can
kind of a
really
nice,
suffer on that if you
yeah.
overpace.
Yeah, it's the seventh of the 10 stations. So it hits you basically, 3/4 of the way um, into the event. And I know for me, I tend to try to pace myself appropriately up until that point and then kind of sell out there and then just
Mhm.
survive the rest of the race. But
Nice.
there's still plenty of places within DEKA to kind of catch your breath, even if you do go out a little bit hot early in that race. Just because the stations I think are so short and they're not super muscularly like demanding.
Yep.
So something like the box jumps or the sit ups, or even the 100-meter farmer carry. Like if you find yourself out a little bit too hot, you can kind of catch some reprieve on some of these stations that you'll just never get in HYROX because each HYROX station kind of demands pretty high output from you.
Yeah. And I think the hardest stations in DECAFIT are kind of at the end, right? It's like the assault bike is pretty brutal. The ram burpees are kind of brutal, but you can sell out because the finish line is right there. That's what you finish with. Where I feel like in HYROX, some of the harder stations overall for people are kind of more upfront. And so
Yeah,
that can
yeah,
that can really change a lot. Like if you are struggling hard on the burpees in HYROX, we are not even halfway through yet. You know what I mean? Or not fully halfway through. So like the end is probably going to be pretty tough, the last half of that
right.
race. And you can tip your hat because of the sleds, because of the burpees. You can tip your hat too early. Even the ski erg. I
Hmm.
mean, how many people we know go too hard on the ski erg and then now we're already kind of in trouble. Our lactate's too high. We got to calm that down. We still have a long way to go. Where I think on DECA, it's like you get through the first 5 or 6 things and it's not really that bad. You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. Well, let's talk some training differences. So like from
Okay.
a strength perspective, you're
Zero strength needed
zero
for
zero
DECA fit.
strength. I mean, you need some. You need a little bit, but you could focus on much
For what?
lighter weights, um, higher reps. I think higher reps are obviously important for HYROX too, but I think from a pure strength standpoint, like you need to be doing like heavy sleds, for example, if you're
Yeah.
training for HYROX, but you don't necessarily need to do heavy sled work for DEKA. And if you're doing,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think it's like, I think it's shorter in blast year. Like, I think it's more of a, um, if I were like in High Rocks, I'm doing threshold for like 1K, 1200 meters. I'm doing 5K skis and rows. I'm doing longer work at like slightly pulled back paces. I think for DECA, it's like the opposite. You would want to be doing 500-meter repeats, 200, 250s. You'd want to be doing some of that spicier VO2 max, more of that spice for this event, because the stations, they're only 500 meters on the erg. So I think you want to probably train slightly different, and even at slightly different paces maybe, because this is more, probably a little bit more anaerobic,
Yeah,
versus high rocks.
I like that. What about Sims? So
Yeah, and
like,
again, like you're doing 500-meter runs too, so it's like 400-meter repeats. In Sims, like maybe you would do shorter runs, 400 to 600 meters, versus like in High Rocks, it's like you got to be able to run 1K all the time.
mhm.
So you're probably doing longer intervals, longer running work. Um, and I think even like in Sim styles, it's kind of like you can do more like AMRAP stuff. You can do more short blastier sim work.
Imams even.
Yep, where
Yeah.
you're touching on like multiple run station, but they're short and quick, and it's a minute or 2 minutes of each, instead of Hyrox where it's like you got to be doing longer work.
I'll even combine like two stations when I'm doing DECA training. I'll combine two stations back to back. So it might be like 400-meter run, 20 box step overs, 500-meter row, 400-meter run.
Yeah,
So I'll like do two stations in between the runs. Whereas like, yeah, in HYROX, you like more times than not, you're not going to do
yeah,
50-meter sled push into 50-meter sled pull and then go back out for your run. You know,
right.
um, I like that. And as far as like true simulations, realistically, you could probably do a DECA fit simulation every single week if you really wanted
Yeah,
to, because
that's, the
it's not,
demand is not the
yeah.
same.
But
Yeah,
like a HYROX sim, I like,
seldom,
yeah, very
not
rare would you
often.
actually do a full HYROX sim. And then we kind of touched on the skills of the race. Wall balls mainly. I mean, I guess there's some on the sleds too. Um, and then like box jump rhythm and ram burpees for DECA
Yeah,
would be like the two that stand out for
yeah,
me.
yeah. And I think even like, even the tank is different than pushing a regular sled, right? So like that is a definitely a different feeling. And with it being like a push into a pull, I think that's obviously slightly different than in a high rocks, where these are totally separate movements. So I think even that can take like a little bit of a different approach training wise. Because the tank is not the same output as like pushing a regular sled. And it takes a little bit of getting used to like actually pushing the tank, because the harder you push it, the more resistance it gives back. So you kind of have to like toy with what that sweet spot is for you, on like how hard you want to push it. And then obviously it's not with a rope for the pull, so that takes out that technical side piece, where you're really just doing like a sled drag.
Right.
So just slightly different training on that, I would say. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You got to sit on the assault bike a lot more for DECA training.
I think
Ouch.
that's the coolest. I think the assault bike is
Oh,
obviously the hardest station, I think, in DECA, but I think that's also, I don't know, like that's there's just something about that being in the event that is appealing, I think.
It's different. I don't know
Yeah.
if appealing is the word I would use, but to each their own.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
like that thing
I
though.
do. I do. I do.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some like commonly asked questions that someone, maybe they've done HYROX, but they haven't done DEKA. They've
Yeah.
done DEKA or they haven't done a HYROX. So let's just say what's the biggest shock for an athlete going from DEKA to HYROX?
Definitely and I know you guys, I remember you guys experiencing this a bit. It was my first season. I only got in for one DEKA race because I didn't even know what it was. So I did the DEKA mile. And I remember you guys were training very specifically for DEKA because of DEKA Worlds, and you guys were in every event. And I was training for HYROX, and then I just touched slightly on the DEKA to just prep for the mile. And then I remember you guys running your HYROX after that in
Mm-hmm.
December.
Ryland, it was Ryland too.
Oh,
Ryland
and
was there.
Rylan.
Yeah.
And I remember you guys saying HYROX training can definitely directly help your DEKA. DEKA training does not directly help your HYROX. Because I think you guys struggled a bit in that first big HYROX race. And I think it's because the volume is different. So you're probably doing a lot less volume overall than you would need for a HYROX, where you need this big endurance space, way bigger endurance space for. And I think DEKA, it's that shorter, spicier thing, but that doesn't necessarily translate to HYROX. So I think it's always going to be easier to come down. And same with running, right? It's always going to be easier for the half marathon guy to come down to the 10K than the 10K guy to probably go up, or the
Right.
half marathon guy to come to a 5K versus
Right.
the 5K going up. Of course, they're amazing. So they're going to do well in all of it, but there's probably is probably going to be a little harder to go up in duration and volume versus coming down because you have that big base built. So I think that is a huge difference in the training. So if you're training for both simultaneously, then I would put more of my eggs in the HYROX basket because I think that will carry you further in DEKA than it doing the opposite.
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Does the shorter time domain in DEKA, would that change how you program your intervals?
Yeah, like I said, I think you can do shorter, faster work for DEKA. And I think for HYROX, that's not really what, like, you need a little bit of it, right? Of course, like in any training plan, we should be doing a variety, but I think um you don't need as much of the short stuff to do really well in HYROX. You don't need so much VO2 max work in HYROX. You need a lot of
Right.
threshold work. You need a lot
Right.
of sub threshold work. But I think that's probably the biggest difference. Before we hopped on, we said, and I said, I think DEKA Fit suits doubles really well in HYROX. Other than obviously the runs are still 1K, but I think the speed of it, the demands of it are more similar to a doubles HYROX race than it would be to a solo.
I love that comparison. Yeah.
Because when I do doubles in HYROX, it is full send, no breaks. It feels like we're not
Yeah.
pacing this at all. We're
Right.
going full throttle from the get-go. And that's kind of how DEKA Fit is. But if you can't do that in a solo HYROX, you got to be very strategic. So it's a little,
Mhm.
those things I think are more comparable.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like doing some top end like VO2 max stuff for DEKA, but I also think staying in threshold with like shorter intervals with
Yeah.
super short recoveries. So let's just say you did 20 by 400 with only like 30 seconds rest.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that kind of stuff really translates well to DEKA. Whereas
Definitely.
that wouldn't necessarily, there would be some translation to HYROX with that kind of stuff, but I mean, it's pretty short interval for HYROX training.
Right. It's not
So,
like the basis of your programming would be something like that. That
right,
would be like a very occasional thing
right.
in comparison. But yeah, definitely. Because you're spending so much less time on the station. So I feel like in DEKA, you're running all the time. because those stations are so quick. So it's like run, the station's over, I'm already running again. And it's very, very short between the runs.
Which event is harder? Or is that not the right question? Is that
I
the
think
wrong question?
HYROX is harder, definitely. And I think the time domain is part of what makes it harder. I think it's heavier. I mean, 100 wall balls for a lot of people is really challenging and takes some people 6 to 8 to 10 minutes just to do the wall balls. That is alone a huge separator of the two events. And you definitely need way more strength. And especially if you're in the pro category, you need way more strength for HYROX than you do for DEKA Fit. And even the strength style stations in DEKA Fit, the lunges is 40 pounds and the reverse lunges are not
30
even
and 30
walking,
reps.
and it's 30 reps. This is 100 meters with 50 pounds for the women. The farmer's carries is half the duration and 10 pounds less than what we
Yeah.
do in HYROX. So like the weight up part of it of DEKA is already half and less weight. So you really have to build up that strength and that stamina for HYROX, and you don't really need to. You can fake your way through a lot of that in DEKA, I think.
Yeah, I agree. HYROX is definitely harder on the strength and endurance side of things. You could maybe argue that DEKA is harder on like the speed of it all and the transitions. But I think most people would say HYROX is definitely harder.
There is, because it's shorter, there is less room for error, right? So you don't want to be losing seconds entering and exiting a station. Because there's just not a lot, there's not as much time to be able to bleed. Whereas in HYROX, obviously the transitions matter a lot, but you can give a couple seconds here to then gain a couple seconds here, or there's a little more wiggle room with it, I think, than in DEKA Fit. The other side of it is there's no like rock zone situation, right? So that's directly impacting your time in one of these two things. And I think that's also a little bit different, because I know some people will kind of use the rock zone as like, okay, I'm gonna like regroup in the rock zone. And it's also like a difference mentally where they're like, okay, I'm exiting the rock zone. I'm obviously running, but I'm gonna like take a couple breaths and then I'm gonna hit it once I get out onto the run course. And that doesn't exist in DEKA. So I think the mental approach to that is also a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You kind of touched on this earlier, but can one athlete train or peak for both events, or do they need their own separate training blocks? And you touched on this a few minutes ago, kind of, if you could train for HYROX, I would say all the time, and then maybe 4 to 6 weeks out from your DEKA, like maybe you could start doing a little more DEKA specific training, but the majority could still just be, you could train HYROX all the time. And then just a little specificity towards DEKA Fit as you get closer to the event, I think would be the move. And that's kind of how you would train for both. I would not spend the majority of my time training for DEKA and then be like, all right, I got a HYROX coming up in a month. Maybe I should start doing HYROX stuff. Like
Completely agree.
that's not going to bode well for you.
No, I've never once like exclusively trained for a DEKA event. Like
Yeah.
literally never. Maybe like 3 weeks out, I'm doing a little more DEKA oriented stuff again, just to like touch on the movements because they're slightly different. Get used to running after an assault bike because that feels real weird. But yeah, never. It's always been like I'm doing HYROX training and then like, oh, I have a DEKA, so I'll just sprinkle in a little bit of that. And it always worked very well for me. So that's what I would recommend. And that's what, when I have clients that are doing both things, that's usually how I kind of program for them.
We touched on this a little bit too, but how does pacing the run change between the two events? I would say, most people are actually slower than when they go back and add up their run time plus rock zone, it's slower than their threshold.
Yes.
Believe it or not. And then I would say DEKA Fit, you're much closer to your actual threshold pace in that event. So that's how you would kind of approach, what kind of training sessions you're doing as you prepare for these events.
Yeah, definitely.
Although that first run in HYROX is definitely above threshold, and then it kind of slopes off a little
Then
bit.
you get a little humbled.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. We're definitely running sub threshold in HYROX. And I think most people, especially when they're first starting HYROX, they don't understand how much slower they're actually running. Most people don't know that they need to include the rock zone in their overall running time and then do the calculation, total running time with rock zone divided by 8.7.
For sure. Yeah.
And usually when I tell people this and I'm giving my clients this information, they're like,
Whoa.
oh, like I am not running that fast. And I'm like, well, yeah, kinda,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, like the courses are slightly different. So that's why you have to do that, because if the rock zone is really big in one race and the runs are a little shorter, you're going to look at those run splits. Say you're running 4-minute Ks and you're thinking, I want to get to 350, but we're not really running 4-minute Ks because it's not a K. You know what I mean? So you have to do that calculation correctly to really understand like where you're sitting. And DEKA is different because there is no rock zone. So like the whole thing is adding up to 5K.
Explain that real quick. When you say there's no rock zone,
There's no
you literally just peel off the course
you
and
peel right off in. The stations are all in order. And when you exit, like you run 2 laps and then the next station is directly next and you just go right in. And then when you're coming out of the station, you're right out onto the running track. Like there is no in arch, out arch. It's not like lumped in the middle in a random order. It's exactly so it's very easy to follow, actually.
Yeah.
It's always 2 laps, so you can't get DEKA wrong as easily. I mean, people still do because brace brain, but DEKA Fit is way easier to understand from just a racing perspective. It's like, okay, I was just here, it's 4, now I go to 5 and I come to the exact same spot and I go right in. I'm not running in, looking around, trying to find, do I go left or do I go right? So that there is no middle time. And that's why we were saying, like, because of that in DEKA, you really have to like be on it coming in and out and getting right back into the running, because you don't want to bleed time into your run trying to recover from the station.
For sure. We got like 2 left. We've touched on this a little bit too. What are the common mistakes athletes make when they try to do both? So like, I know for me, like you do a DEKA one weekend and then you go to HYROX the next weekend. Maybe going out a little bit too hot in the HYROX because you're used to the urgency of DEKA.
The pacing is different. So yeah, that could definitely, if you're not well like prepared mentally on how to approach these two things, definitely could be a very easy mistake to fall into. I mean, I think everybody falls into it anyway in HYROX.
For sure. Yeah.
Then if you're only used to doing shorter events, it's even more likely that you might make that mistake. You ever see those videos on Instagram of people and it's like they're running a mile, the way they come out of the tunnel. And I'm just like,
this their
what is going on?
2 minutes of fame.
Don't do that, guys.
Don't do that. I think another big one is kind of underestimating the sleds. Like if you've been doing DEKA and you're trying to go do HYROX, you better be doing some heavy sled work in your training or it's going to punch you in the mouth.
And understand how to brake. Because again, in DEKA, where you're not braking, like you don't have to strategically brake in DEKA.
Right.
In HYROX, you have to strategically, you have to be very strategic on your approach in the stations, especially the beginning ones. So, taking the brakes on the sled push, um, being effective with the rope on the sled pull. You can lose so much time if you do not utilize rope management well. If you're not using the full length of the box, that's a bit different. So yeah, those two right off the bat are going to be very different. And I would say even like your pace on the ski erg, you got to pull that back, from what you might do for a 500 in a DEKA fit.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
You don't
And
want to
they're
tip
in,
your hat too soon.
it's interesting too because the ski erg is the first station in HYROX, and then it's the fifth station in DEKA. So it kind
Hmm.
of hits you at a different point in the race.
Yeah.
Um,
But for me, my paces are the same because of that difference, right? So I'm a little bit pulled back on the ski erg and a HYROX, but then
right.
because it's fifth in a DEKA fit, I find my pace is pretty much the same because of where it's placed in
Mine is too. Now that I
comparison.
think about it, I'm like, yeah, mine is too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That row though, the row is definitely
The
a little
row
bit
is
quicker,
way
way
faster.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last thing would be if you're coming from HYROX to DEKA, just again, the transitions, within the stations. Like you've got to be on that or you're going to lose tons of time, especially if you're
Mhm.
trying to compete at like, the elite level. You'll lose 5 or 6 seconds each freaking, station you come to.
Yep.
So be ready for that. Go watch some DEKA videos on YouTube or something. And then we'll finish with like what's the mental difference between kind of racing for 30 to 45 minutes versus 60 minutes to 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's like anything, right? Like I think even if you're viewing the differences between a 5K and a 10K, like you can kind of fake your way through a 5K, right? Because by the time it's like hurting really bad, you're almost done. You're almost at the end, unless you really paced it really poorly and
Mm-hmm.
go out way too hard in the first mile. But I think you can kind of fake your way through a 5K more easily than you can a 10K. And I think that's the same thing here. It's like you can kind of get away with a little more. You can get away with a little more pacing errors in a DEKA fit than you can in a HYROX. If you pace really poorly, HYROX will expose that very, very quickly.
For sure. Yeah, I think one is just a sprint, more or less. One's a sprint
Yeah.
with, you can't make many mistakes. And then the
Yeah.
other one is just a grind with like no mercy. And you
Yeah.
have to be prepared to, uh, deal with some really, just go to that dark place in the middle of the race and live there
Yep.
until the end. Whereas, like you said, DEKA, like the moment it gets bad, you're pretty much done. So that carrot's kind of just dangling, you know,
Yeah.
like you never really go deep in it. And if you are there, it's only for a few minutes. So I think it's a little easier to kind of deal with, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think what was I gonna say too? HYROX is less forgivable with the muscular demand also. These are very different from a muscular demand perspective. Running on heavy legs is drastically different DEKA to HYROX. Like you're not getting that real heavy leg feeling in a DEKA fit until you hit like the assault bike into the tank, and you're right at the end. Whereas in HYROX, you push that sled, you come off of that second station, legs are already feeling it, right? So this is from a durability standpoint, very different. You have to be used to and okay with running and not feeling fresh in HYROX, probably for most of it.
Yeah. From like
Um,
station 2 on.
yes. And I think in DEKA Fit, you feel that's a totally different, right? Like aerobically, it might be more demanding up front from a more anaerobic aspect, but you're not running with like, you didn't push anything heavy, you didn't do any lunges heavy, like the legs are mostly fine. It's probably more the lungs that are going to feel it in the DEKA fit.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can think of, or do you think we covered most of it?
Yeah, I guess so. I
Okay.
still won't be doing any.
I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be out there. We're going
We're rooting for you, bud. We
sub
hope you
30
take it
for
home.
show. I
Are
will
other
say the
people
race.
doing it? Are any other
I'm not.
elite people doing it?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Haven't hit anyone up?
No, I thought maybe Dylan or somebody, Colin
Yeah, that would make
Stiefer or
sense.
somebody, but I don't think those guys are going.
Gotcha.
Like I said, for me, it's mostly about just checking in,
Yeah.
kind of seeing where we're at. Obviously, I could do a hard workout in my garage, but sometimes you want
It's
to go
different
put
when you're in
yourself
a,
in the arena.
yeah, absolutely. Different mentality.
Yeah, so it'll be good. I will say that it has gotten a little bit harder or a little bit slower than it was a few years ago when we were all doing it pretty regularly. Like,
Hmm.
the tanks have changed a little bit.
Oh yeah, they're like
Like
those
these
3-wheeled ones,
weird
right?
shopping cart things. Um, they're pretty strict. They're more strict on the reverse lunges, the ram burpees. You now have to go full extension. You've got to set your own seat on the assault bike. Um, so the times are, you're seeing everyone not run quite as fast as they were a few years ago. But I think a lot of it has to do with some of the little minor changes that have been made within the event. And now I honestly think, if you can go sub 30 on the men's side, it's pretty close to what it like going sub 29 used to be like, I think a few
Mm.
years ago. So hopefully we can get in there, drop like a mid 29 and yeah, we'll see what happens.
I would definitely fumble the seat on the assault bike. Like I'd probably lose 25 seconds.
I was stressing there at the last race and it worked out, but like, yeah, I know that feeling like you go to click it in the hole and you can't get it to click.
Yeah. Yeah. I can barely get it right when I'm just training in the gym, just getting it ready,
Right.
let alone in the middle of a race. So that's interesting. But I mean,
Because remember, we used to always go around and like
and
set
like,
the seats before the race.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not anymore.
All right. Well, if you're gonna be in PA, come holler at your boy. I'll be up there. But that will do it for today. That's a wrap on HYROX versus DEKA. They're both hybrid events, but they're played on different fields. Again, HYROX rewards strength under fatigue, and DEKA rewards speed. You can train for both, but don't mistake them for the same sport. All
Yep.
right, guys. We'll see you next week. Maybe full squad. I don't know. Talk to you soon.